Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. Got a Katherine Albrecht on. She's with a cool company called StartPage.com. Kind of innovators out there and trying to protect you when it comes to your communication, your searches, the whole nine yards. The whole internet is pretty much driven by your activity, and it's spying on you every single step of the way. Nothing safe. Your email, virtually nothing safe. Yeah, even your phone calls if you're using Verizon. And so it's great to have a company that has among its highest values your security. Katherine, good to have you back on the program.
Hey, it's great to be back on the show, Sigmund. Or, I'm sorry, Kevin.
Yeah, good to have you on. Tell me a little bit about, first of all, you wanted to talk a little bit about what's happening with Verizon.
Yeah, so, that was what really started the scandal breaking, was the realization or the revelation that Verizon was turning over all of its phone records to the government. That's relevant because under the Bush administration, this first got started as AT&T did something very similar and turned over all of their customers' records in the state of California to the federal government. They actually created a little listening post for the NSA several years before Obama was even elected. And then Obama, of course, comes in and used that as one of his election campaign promises, that he was going to put an end to all of the warrantless wiretapping and the spying under the Bush administration. And now we come to find out that not only did he not end it, but he vastly expanded the program. So, this is no longer a left and right issue. It's really not about Republicans and Democrats. It is really starting to be about us versus them, we the people versus the people who would violate the Constitution to spy on us.
Yeah, and so absolutely. So this is an interesting example right here of what we're talking about. And the thing that kind of bothers me about it is that a lot of Republicans were okay with Bush activity. I wasn't okay with it, and of course the Democrats were up in arms. A lot of it has to do with who's doing it. We need to have an attitude that it's inappropriate regardless of who's doing it.
Yeah, and that's really what the founding fathers put into place way back when they founded this country, is they said, hang on a second, human nature being what it is, government, which, the best definition for government is people who wanted power over other people and found a way to get it.
Yeah.
So you've got these government people back in 1776 and all the way to today and all the way back, 2,000 years ago, who have always wanted to find ways to better control the people under them. And the best way to do that is to know everything about them so you can identify who your political opponents are, and then you can make life difficult for them. Now, you can do it in the way that this administration did with Tea Party activists by throwing a monkey wrench into their lives with tax audits and not giving them the appropriate tax status, or you can do it the way that Joseph Stalin did back in the Soviet Union, where you just disappear them in the middle of the night. This kind of thing, I think the reason people are so outraged by it is because this kind of thing is exactly what leads to the gulag or the concentration camps, because governments historically and today have always wanted to have maximum power for themselves and to be able to quiet their political opposition. So, it's no surprise to me that, today's version, I guess, is a little bit not quite as bad to stick the IRS on somebody as to stick somebody in a gulag. But if we're not careful, and if we don't preserve our First Amendment freedoms to expose these kinds of things, and our Fourth Amendment freedoms to have the privacy and say to the government, hands off our personal data, that's the road we may be going down.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly right. And you end up finding yourself there, way after your ability to stop it. And so that's why you have to stop it as soon as humanly possible. What was it? Benjamin Franklin said those who would trade their freedom for security deserve neither. And I'm afraid we might have to learn that the hard way.
Yeah, and part of this too, Kevin, is this is not just the government's fault. I mean, in many ways, clearly it is, because they've got the guns and the tanks, they've got the political power, and they control, the courts and what the NSA does. But there's another piece to this too, which is I think we as Americans have not really fully woken up to our responsibility to protect our own privacy and to be thoughtful about the kinds of choices that we make. It's not a surprise that when the NSA wanted to get information about Americans, it went to Google, it went to Yahoo, it went to Microsoft and Facebook, because those companies have amassed over the last 10 or 15 years, with our permission, more information in their databases on American citizens than has ever been amassed on any people in the history of humanity. So, Joseph Stalin would have gone nuts to be able to get access to the kind of information that Google has on us.
Yeah.
And, the way, the fact that we look at these companies, and, Google, I think the smartest thing they ever did was have those multicolors in their logo. They're the most trusted company in America. They have a 70% approval rating, and yet they are the biggest snoops, not only in this country, but on the globe. Google, here's what I figured out, and this has totally changed my attitude about Google. Back in the 1980s, I got a degree in marketing, and my professor said the hardest thing you're going to have to do is market research, because nobody will tell you honestly what they're thinking. So Google is really not a search engine. I know that sounds crazy, because they're a market research company.
I've got such a limited time left, and I have so many questions I wanted to ask, but unfortunately I'm not going to get most of them in. I need answers to be shorter. I'm sorry, but it gets, you get on a roll, so we get moving here. So where are you in the chronology of Start Page?
Well, Start Page is there, and it fully exists. It's the private alternative to Google, so that when you type into Start Page, we take your query, we give it to Google, and give you the results privately, and then we delete all records of your visit. We remove your IP address. So Start Page is here. You can add it to your browser. You can make it your homepage. I'm trying to encourage radio hosts to stop giving free advertising to Google by using it like a verb, like a Kleenex, Google it. Mm-hmm. And, I had developed Start Page for 6 months before I stopped saying Google it myself. So hopefully you'll do better than me. But we say Start Page around here, Start Page it instead of Google it. So it's there, it's available, it's free, it's funded by advertising, but it's contextual advertising rather than advertising based on your profile. And then
so let's talk a minute about that contextual advertising. So it would seem like to me it would be a harder sell to an advertising company when it sounds like it's kind of random.
Well, it's kind of like when you read Field and Stream magazine, there's going to be ads for fishing poles, because you kind of assume somebody has that interest. When you do a search on Start Page for fishing poles, you're going to get ads for fishing poles. Whereas with Google, if you do a search on Google for fishing poles, you might get an ad for high heel shoes because your wife was on there yesterday, going on the Neiman Marcus catalog. So we don't bring the ads in based on your life. We bring the ads in based on just the search that you did, and we don't keep track of the sorts of things that you search for.
Very good. All right. Thanks for being with us. I enjoyed it very much. By the way, you can get more information at startpage.com. You might want to check out the About section. Lots of news articles and information there for you to explore. And you also have an email service you're launching.
We do, and that's going to be totally private and completely encrypted, and your listeners can become beta testers and kick the tires for us at startmail.com, startmail.com, and it's not out yet. It's going to be coming out later this summer, but if they mention that they heard me, Katherine, on the Kevin Price Show, we'll give them 3 free months of the service. It's not going to be free, by the way, because free means they invade your privacy. So it's going to be $5 or $6 a month. But totally encrypted to the point where even we are not going to be able to read your email.
Yeah, gotta love that. Thanks so much for being with us.
Hey, thank you, Kevin.
All right. Do you want to remind listeners here the best content that you can find on this show can be found over at usdailyreview.com. While there, like it on Facebook, follow it on Twitter. You're listening to The Price of Business.